From the great halls of their house, there assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. And our B-Man, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
Vicki.
Jennifer.
You are. So we're getting pretty good at this. We all know who everybody is. This is awesome. Anyway, so we started this podcast trying to prove to everybody that anybody can do this, even us, and trying to get people to enter our sport. And some of our first episodes were an introduction to each of us as hosts and drivers. But that's been almost 4 years. Well, maybe more than 4 years. But so we thought around episode 200, we were going to do this and introduce everybody again and try to bring everybody up to speed with who we are and where we are in our growth as racing drivers and mechanics and everything else related to racing. So with that, we are going to introduce some of our hosts and review where they were at. So for this episode, who should we do, Jen?
Let's do Vicki.
Let's do Vicki. So Vicki,
Yes.
the first question of the day. Who are you and what are you up to?
Tell us who you are.
Well, I initially, for a while, have worked with special and special needs kids. I do.
I'm right here.
I know. I spent a lot of time doing artwork. I belonged originally to 3 guilds, moving around. I've moved around the country with my husband a lot. So that had required me mostly to move. So
why don't you share with us where you've lived? Because that's really
okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
you have lived in so many really cool places.
So my husband is an engineer, and it required us to move frequently. And I mean frequently. So I met him in Delaware. Then we went to Texas. And then we went to North Carolina. And then from North Carolina, we went to Delaware. And then from Delaware, we went to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, we went to New Jersey. And New Jersey, we went to Connecticut. And then from there, Bill had gone on to New Jersey, because that's when the crash hit. So Bill had gone on to New Jersey and then Wisconsin. He came back to Connecticut, and then we moved to Pennsylvania. So each one of those normally requires 2 sets of housing. We have a temporary housing we have to move into, and then we have to arrange for moving trucks and all that kind of stuff. So there were times when we had not even unpacked before we were packing again.
Vicki's a professional mover.
I was, you know what? I would go and I would find work wherever my husband went. And I eventually ended up working with children.
Right here.
I know. So, I mean, literally my time was moving. And then when we got settled in, would find work. And then I would go find art guilds right after that. So, and that's just, I think in the later part of the moving, I started doing that.
So you've been doing art for a long time.
Yeah, I have been.
Yeah.
So my medium right now, it started out in watercolor when we were in Hawaii, and then it moved on to colored pencil afterwards. But, you know, technically I can pretty much work with anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just kind of either do the drawing or the painting, which is why Jennifer and I kind of fall into the decorating and theming cars, because it comes pretty easy to us.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I remember even back in high school, you took architecture.
Yeah, but I ended up doing more art on the top of my board than architecture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what are your interests, are where do you feel like your position is on the team? Like where is your interest there? Either with driving or, working on cars, or how would you describe?
So driving, the interest is number one, driving is just to kind of become um one of the best drivers that I can be. I know that it's really not going to be, upper level, but the interest is to become uh, a really good driver where other people may even want to have me drive for their teams too.
Mhm.
Just to have one of those scenarios. I would like to, drive different cars, but ultimately is just really being able to be fluent on the track to where I can go to any track and know how to drive it properly. And basically learning strategy on on the track also, because there's more to driving than just going fast.
Mhm.
So
I agree.
the last race has taught me that um the last race that we had gone to was very, very congested, and we ended up having car trouble. But with the car trouble, um, we had really lost power, so we had to really kind of depend a little bit on strategy to get through stuff, and it kind of came together at our last race that I can see a different kind of way of getting around things now. So the other interest that I have is I'm apprentice with a mechanic right now. So I am learning a lot more on how to repair the cars. I can pretty much prep cars now for races. Um, Still working on the diagnosis part. I have a tendency when things happen to kind of go into a slight panic and kind of go back into old mode where, not understanding. But if I really stop to sit down and think about it, it starts to make sense.
It's like Blue's Clues.
Like Blue's Clues, you find the clues, so that's what's kind of happening. And I enjoy theming on the cars also.
Yeah. So you've come a long way with the mechanical piece of it.
Well, we kind of had to. When it came to it, I'm the person right now that has the most freedom to be in the shop.
Mhm.
And Alan has been coming over twice a week, and we spent the entire winter rebuilding the race truck because we had a big kerfluffle last year after Charlotte, when the truck broke and then the car hit the wall on top of it, and us having to go back in and kept trying to figure out why our car kept breaking.
It was us.
It was us, because you don't know what you don't know, to how to prep them. So we had decided that after that particular race and everybody came back together again, that we were just going to deconstruct the race truck. And that was wildly eye-opening for me, to actually put a name to the parts and how to figure out how everything actually operates. So we spent the winter doing that, and I think that was massive. That was massive. So now that I can go into the shop, and if Bill's saying we need to get these things ready, I kind of know what to do. But just okay, so right now, as this podcast is being recorded, we are in Ocean City on vacation. We haven't been to vacation in a lot of years for this length of time. Just that's not racing involved or anything like that. And I blew a tire. And for that moment, I had a little panic of, okay, what am I going to do? Because it was old brain operating in old ways of doing things. I was like, well, I could call somebody. I was like, wait a minute, I change tires all the time. So yeah. And I'm like, wait, what the heck? So, but it was really kind of amazing, because sometimes I have to fight old mode and old panic when things go wrong. but stopping to think about it kind of starts lining things up really easily. It was a really weird sensation. I have to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, you were away from the garage. You were on vacation. You were on old Vicki mode. I see.
yeah, old Vicki mode.
Old Vicki mode.
Yep.
So, Miss Vicki, where are you currently in your racing driver growth path? Like, where do you think you are? Where do you think you're going? What do you do?
Well, I am level 2 HPDE. Crossing, I could cross over into level 3. I spent so much time in level 1 and racing for so many years. I think that, and I guess other kinds of training and seat time, that I had an assessment done after going into 2, and I could, if I wanted to, work on 2 things and get out of 2, out of 2 and go into 3. But I think I need to be there for comfort at the moment, and really understand it. So I'm kind of there at the moment, and let me see on my racing. I right now with the racing that I've learned since my last race is that there's not too much on the track that scares me while racing with other people. I'm not really intimidated by people. I'm not really intimidated by speed. I'm not really intimidated by traffic. Yeah, traffic doesn't bother me at all. I think I look at it differently.
How about new tracks?
New tracks are new tracks are a little intimidating, I would say, only because that there's a difference between when you go to a new track, there's a difference between, looking at the map, looking at a video or something like that, and then actually feeling the track when you're on it at those particular speeds. That learning a new track is not my favorite thing for the first day, and that's usually what I tell Bill too, is that if I'm because he's a data guy, and I just keep telling him, I said, you're not going to see any results out of me until Sunday, until I can actually swing this thing and understand how the track is how I fit and how I personally will understand how to drive on the track.
So since nobody's at a 10, but you're at a personal 10 right now, like personally, what would be something that's a strength of yours driving, and what would be kind of a weakness that you're working on?
I think my strength is, for right now, not being too intimidated going out on the traffic or out on the track. And so I'm usually the first one that goes out in the morning, because it's at the races, it gets crazy in the morning where everybody's fighting for a position, and lots of things happen on the track first thing in the morning, especially on the first race day, that I find, and I'm sure other people on the track, on our team could do it too. I find it comfortable to go out there and navigate traffic first thing, and kind of wrestling my way through who else is out there. My weakness would be straightaways, because I have a habit of coasting at the end, and I get intimidated at the very end of a straightaway.
What do you mean by intimidated at the end of the straightaway?
Well, the turn at the end of a straightaway seems a lot closer when you're going about 120 miles an hour, and it comes a lot faster, even though that the brake numbers on the side are quite a distance from it. It just doesn't appear to be. So it's deceptive to me and distorting. So I have a habit, and it's a habit that I'm really, really working on breaking, is to not lift, even though that I really was working on that at Pitt, Ohio in my Miata, and I spun out, did 2 360s. But I also learned when that happened that I was able to control a car that was out of control. knowing what to do.
All right. So looking at your strengths and weaknesses, what areas are you looking to grow into or that you're working on related to your driving?
Related to my driving, definitely the straightaway situation. And I would like to work a little bit more on strategy, because when you're racing and you're racing with a lot of people, it doesn't come natural to see the offline when you're racing in traffic. You want to still fall into that line, but finding the areas where you can pass and having that predictability of what that car in front of you is going to be doing, it doesn't line up in my brain quite yet, although it did start to click at the very last race when I was seeing a different line on how to get around.
Okay, so looking at our team and looking at what we do and things that are involved with, preparing the race car or driving the race car or checking out after or even during the race car, is there any areas that you don't feel like you're involved with that you want to get into, or anything you want to learn more about?
As like my position on the team?
Skills, knowledge, things that you want to know more about.
Well, I'm still traveling down the mechanic road. There's something that I didn't realize that I would enjoy mechanic work as much as I do. I've really kind of taken the garage, which is our air hangar, to be like a happy place now, to kind of go. It's set up quite comfortable, and it just really dawned on me, probably more recently, looking back, through my life and up to this point, just how much I actually work with my hands and how natural that is to me, and how when I do that, I can, not to mention it's enjoyable, but it's easy. It comes very easy to me to do stuff like that. So I would definitely say, more down the mechanic road for me, and learn more on how a car operates more than just how one car operates.
So what do you think, what's your current assessment of us as a team? Like, can you share maybe some of our strengths and weaknesses?
I think that our strengths as a team is, number one, is that we're serious about what we do. But at the same time, we don't take ourselves too seriously. That it's not worth to jeopardize family or friends or the car, just to win a race. There's going to come a time when we can all, come together and say, this is the mission. Everything is going to be in our alignment. We are going to win this race. Okay, there is, but we have enough team building that's getting there and working to understand each other before that time comes. And then even then, if it doesn't happen, it really doesn't happen. We don't beat ourselves up over it. I think for us is that, we focus more on the journey than we do about the end game. So I would say that would be our strength.
Yeah, that's good. What about the weakness?
Our weakness is that's a tough question. Our weakness, I would say, just our weakness is that we're still learning. It's a strength and a weakness. Is that there's still stuff that we don't know, and but we're getting there and learning it is is the journey. But yeah, I would say that would be about it. Our weakness is just our knowledge.
Yeah. And we're working on that.
Yeah. I mean, it took a long time just to understand the lingo.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know how many times somebody could tell me how to threshold brake or how to shift weight in the tires. And I would just sit and look at this weird circle map. I still have no idea what that circle map is. When you have all the scratches all over it, like a cat scratch, I literally have no idea what that means. And you can explain it to me. I'm looking at it like a piece of artwork.
Friction circle for those playing at home.
I have no idea what that means. And I know that somebody had told me what threshold braking was. And I have to say, it took me 2 years to understand what threshold braking was. It was weird, but I just go with it. I figure at some point I will understand what this stuff means, but I'm just going to go with it.
So as a team, what do you feel are some of our areas that we need to grow, or new skills that we need to add to the team?
Areas that we need to grow or add. You know, I think that right now our team is a pretty solid team. It just needs seat time, honestly. Seat time is what we need more of.
So is it more we need to get better at what we already do and then worry about it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, I remember in Jennifer saying at one point was that we learn from our mistakes. We don't judge our mistakes or who makes the mistakes. We just kind of say, you know, that happened, yes, and how can we fix it and not happen again? I mean, we're pretty good on systems, and I would say spreadsheets and, you know, organization. Our organization's gotten much better. But yeah, I mean, I would say that. I mean, we just learn from our mistakes and we just kind of move forward with them.
All right. So far, we've raced on tracks and we've raced on runways. And, you know, how has that gone for you in terms of, you know, what's worked well? What did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? What were kind of your thoughts on how things are going for yourself?
Well, I like racing on tracks. I mean, I think that, I mean, Evos and yeah, well, Evos and HPDEs and, you know, I do enjoy HPDEs. I think that I enjoy the racetrack more than HPDE because I can get more seat time to practice. That what I learned in HPDEs. But I especially enjoy the Great Lakes. They have such a great program. And I have to say, it's probably one of the only programs right now that I've been to that I actually learned something from. And that I can actually feel myself improve the next time I get on the racetrack. So I would have to say also that, speaking of track, is that the end of last year when we did an HPDE, we went to the Northeast one. That was the very first time that I actually felt my car do something with my body. So I know that people talk about it, and, you know, you steer with your hands with the front and you're in the seat, you feel the back end. And that was the first time I actually felt it and acknowledged, you know, what that was. And now I can drive the car differently my particular car, my Miata. I haven't so much felt in the other ones because I haven't spent that much time in the other ones. And I feel it with the truck now. The truck still makes me a little bit uneasy with a controlled skid or slide, because that is a new area for me, is to actually feel that slide in the back end after we hit the skid pad. But now that we feel it and we know it, it's just something that we need more track time to really make it work and get solid with it.
So what is your podcast highlight and low light so far?
Well, the highlight is I mean, we've had some really, really great guests on. And I enjoy the stuff that I learn from the people that we have come on. Definitely. Our low light is that sometimes Bill and I bicker on them, and he has to do a little extra editing. Whether it's just married life communication issues that we have sometimes pop up in them, and sometimes
I don't notice that at all.
Oh, shut up. Shut up. So anyway, we I would say that's the low light of them, and sometimes we end up bickering after. Why did you do that? Why did you say that? But like, why did you finish my sentences? So anyway, we I would have to say that's the low light, but that's just marriage communication that we have to work out before we get to the to the podcast.
I am very surprised at your highlight, but okay.
So what's your racing highlight and low light?
My racing highlight and low light. My racing highlight. Well, I would have to say pit. When we had finished pit and we won. So we had won pit, and that was because it was our first race out, and Alan and I had worked really hard getting the race truck ready, deconstructing the race truck, putting it back together, and everything just came together. And it was just, what, the highlight that was most funny, I mean, we won, which was a great feeling, but the highlight was having people kept coming up to us wanting to know where the truck was, because it wasn't in the garage and we weren't hanging around there trying to fix it as we had for the last 2 years, so that was really it was a little uneasy at the same time too, because we didn't realize how much free time we had when we weren't fixing the truck all the time. So that was pretty awesome. And I think actually winning that race with the race truck was pretty awesome. I mean, that was a really good feeling, to kind of say, how everything just came together that weekend, everything. And I was like, wow, that truck raced really good.
So racing is fun. We all agree. What do you think? Oh, we didn't do low light. All right. My bad. Whoopsie.
So low light. Let me see the low light. The low light would have to be Charlotte last year. As much as much fun as that track was, our team kind of imploded that weekend. And one of the reasons why it imploded was that Bill and I were just doing too much. And we were personally, we were managing 2 cars, all the repairs, and we were prepping, and we were packing, and we would literally have to start a month out to get all of this done. And we have been doing this for a while. And when we noticed that as it came time for us to race, Bill and I were just physically and mentally exhausted. And I think it just kind of came to a head in Charlotte when things started going wrong, and communication with our team was not as good as it should have been. But immediately after that happened, we all took a breather and we had to reassess how this team was going to function. And what we had decided was that, yes, we can have 2 cars, but we were only going to bring one to the racetrack. And what that would actually do was that people would be more inclined to take care of that one race car and really focus on getting one race car as primed as it can possibly be, instead of kind of 2 race cars half done, as best as we can get them. And if we did that, then people would be more inclined to have driver empathy to the vehicle that was being driven. And of course, it being prepped as best possible, because they couldn't jump into another car if something happened to the first one. And then at the time we had one mechanic, and now, I'm getting there, but to have one mechanic work on 2 cars that are constantly broken, and even the mechanic that wasn't even local to us. So we had to kind of do that, and we had to break up the team in a sense that if we wanted to have more cars, then we could have more than one car, but we have to have one solid team per car. And that team would be responsible for that car, because it just became too much. So when we did come back together, we all started focusing more on one car. And that's what kind of led to PIT. It just had to be done differently. And at that point, Jennifer had taken total paddock for us, because I was working on paddock also. We simplified the team down a little bit, because I would start preparing cars, and then I would be preparing food, and then I would be packed. Jennifer's like, let me just go ahead and just do food. And that freed up time for me to work on getting us to the track. So, some changes had to be realigned, and I think it's worked out pretty well so far. We need to work, because I know that we had given Alan the spider stang, and he's doing the spider stang. So we are going to go over there and help him with that one next. I'm going to go over there and help him pull that one together. So if he wants to have an extended team he can have it in that car. But to have all of us prep one car for so many cars for so many people, it got bad. I mean, it about broke me last year.
So, like I said when I jumped ahead, everybody agrees that racing is fun, but has anything been harder than you thought it would be going in, or easier than you thought it would have been?
Lingo.
Harder and easier?
Lingo was harder for me to understand than I thought it would be.
I think I know why.
Tell me why.
Because I use the lingo, and therefore you don't really hear it. No? All right, bathtub.
No, like I said, having that friction circle. I still have no idea what the friction circle is. And that was harder for me until it all clicked. It's a different kind of language, I would say.
What about easier? What's been easier than you thought it would have been?
Mechanics are a lot easier than I thought they would be.
In what way do you mean easier?
Because I looking at a car, it was just a mystery of how it really kind of operated until we started taking it all apart. And then it wasn't as complicated as I thought it was. I'm sure different vehicles are for different things are more complicated, but I know the race truck is not a complicated beast at all. It's a really simple machine.
All right. So bonus to the mechanic involved right now. What is your favorite tool and your least favorite tool? So far.
Favorite tool.
You can have a couple.
I know, I really like the breaker bar. I don't know why. There's something really, really satisfying about the breaker bar. Right now, I'm enjoying very much the little DeWalt impact, because it has like these little gadgets that you put on top of it that holds the sockets. And it kind of does everything, beyond just having a higher impact gun. So we've been able to kind of do a lot of things with that. That's become probably one of my favorite go-to tools right now. My favorite item is goop, because because it gets everything off my hands, and it's almost like lard. I'm like, this stuff is amazing, for cleaning my hands and stuff. I don't really have a least favorite tool. I really don't. I do. What is my least favorite?
Slide hammer.
Yeah, slide hammer. Yeah. That requires a lot of work. So yeah.
So have you had any aha moment highlights that come to mind?
For mechanics, it was sitting on the floor looking up into the suspension I had done, and all the way into where the transmission was sitting. We had all the tires off, and I just kind of looked at the car, and I think I mentioned this before when I just said it was an animatron. And I understood how that particular vehicle worked. So understanding how that particular vehicle worked now, the race truck, I am probably going to be next in the mode of diagnosing. So that was the big aha. Driving was feeling the back end of the car after the skid pad and understanding what that felt like. So driving with my hands for the front end for steering and manipulating the car that way, but then being able to manipulate the back end of the car by feel in the seat of the car.
So
that was pretty huge.
What's your next aha moment that you want to feel?
The next aha moment is trying to come down the straightaway, not lift, and then kind of whip the car around. And of course, being able to slide the car more is what I would like to be able to do, and not feel intimidated by it.
All right, so let's get to some more favorites. What is your favorite car of ours so far?
Well, that depends on what it's being used for. Okay, for my HPDEs, I enjoy the Miata. I really, really do.
Okay.
The little turbo Miata, because it makes this little pew 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 noise when the little turbo kicks in, and it's fun. And when I'm on the HPDE track with it, and I ended up coming around the turns against the other Miatas, they don't realize that there's a turbo in there, and then I just kind of like pass them on the straightaway, and for a while they couldn't figure out why until they realized I had a turbo in it. So they're like, oh, I couldn't figure out how you did that. So that was fun. I did not think I would enjoy the E46 as much as I do. So when little minor things were breaking with my Miata, I end up hopping into Bill's car. And that is just like a 2.0 car for me. And I didn't realize how easy it would be to drive. And it is so much fun. And of course, I like to race the truck at Lemons, of course, because it's just, people don't expect you to pass them in a truck, which is hilarious. They really don't. So I don't have a tendency to select people when I'm on the track to kind of go against. I just kind of race a track unless you're in a truck. And then I'll find you, and then I'll see how many times I can pass you. And then, of course, when I'm at HPD and I happen to be driving Bill's car, I try to find Jennifer and I try to pass her.
Yep. And you usually do.
All right. So is there any other cars that stick out that we've raced against or seen at the track? Anything that it could be the car, could be the theme, could be whatever.
I liked Amanda's 1937 Buick when it went out. I mean, they're funny. And of course, anything Speedy Cop puts out is pretty awesome. And I'm very curious if he puts anything out this year or if he's going to come race. Well, I mean, if he would have shown up at NJMP, but we haven't really heard out of Speedy Cop. But yeah, Speedy Cop puts out some pretty amazing cars. And I would be very happy to sit behind the wheel of any one of those. So, and go ahead.
So is there any cars that you want to beyond Speedy Cop? Is there any other cars that you wanted to get behind the wheel, give them a little bit of a run, maybe in practice, maybe in a race?
I'm interested in the Tatas. The Tatas cars amaze me. And I don't know why. I just keep thinking there's a dead body in the back of this car. I'm not exactly sure. What car is that? I mean, what's it called?
It's a humpback Cadillac.
Yeah, it's a humpback Cadillac.
Eldorado.
Yeah, but it's kind of got this slant trunk on it. And it just reminds me of something out of Goodfellas. And just because just the way it's kind of set up, it you wouldn't think it would be as fast as it is, but then it kind of rumbles by you. That car is pretty amazing and it cracks me up. I think my favorite theme of all time, there's been a lot of really, really great themes, but the most memorable one I had has always been Super Grover, which Super Grover was there for our first year. And it was just this Muppet that sat on top of this white car. And it was huge. It was a huge Muppet and it was flat and it had no stuffing in it. But when the car would go at top speed, this Muppet would lift off the car with a cape on it. And it was called Super Grover. And every single time I passed this car, I would just laugh because it was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. And of course it was our first race, so everything was funny. But it was probably the one that sticks out most memorably for me.
All right. So do you have a favorite track or a favorite turn so far? Could have more than one.
Yeah, I know. Gingerman, I really enjoyed Gingerman. By the time I got done, I didn't think I'd like Mid Ohio as much as I did. But in the wet is scary. In the dry, it's amazing. I really enjoyed. I did enjoy Charlotte until it got dark because we didn't have proper lights, and then it became scary because there wasn't enough light to go into the interior of it. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking because the walls were just amazing to go across those. Not the walls, but the
banking?
Yeah, the banking. That's the term I'm trying to say. Okay. So the banks were amazing. So yeah, I would have to say they're probably Gingerman was nice. I still have nostalgia for NJMP because that was my first one. I would have to say probably my least favorite is, and that's just my personal opinion, is probably New Hampshire, only because I'm not comfortable with the transitions. They're awkward for me.
All right. Do you have a favorite race that we've done so far or a favorite HPD?
Favorite HPDEs are probably anything from Great Lakes because every one of them is amazing. Gingerman at the HPDE was a lot of fun because at the very end, they had you do the track in reverse. And when we did the track in reverse is when I actually learned something. Well, not actually, I mean, I learned, but when everything kind of came together because you really weren't focused on the car in front of you or the instructor. At that point, you were just driving the track because you had to find new points to look at and new things to do. And I think everything that I learned that weekend kind of came together there. Favorite race and turn. Let me see my favorite turn. My favorite race. I have to say pit race because it was so clean. And then my favorite turn I would have to say is the bowl at pit. Because coming out of the S's, and if you hit it just right, especially with the truck has such torque that you end up after the S's My husband, okay, Bill's next to me right now, and he's trying to figure out where that is. Okay, after the S's, after straightaway, you hit the S's. Okay, you go down into the gully, and if you hit it just right, the truck has so much torque that it just plows up those hills.
So at pit race, the S's are the turns after that. You're talking about turn 3, 4. You're talking about 5.
Yes. Yeah. So because if you hit it just right, the truck has so much torque and so much power that some of the other cars are struggling to go up that hill because they didn't hit it right, that we were able to gain so much out of there.
Sorry, the dragon thing gets you every time.
It really does.
The S's. Okay.
Do you have a good, bad, and ugly so far?
Oh, my good was winning pit race. Again, clean race. Our first race was always really, really good too. Our first race ever, because I don't think I've laughed so hard through our entire thing. Bad? I don't think I really have a bad, because every time we do something, we learn.
Like we're in training.
Yeah. So I don't really think of things as bad as much as learning experiences. The ugly was our team falling apart at Charlotte, but we rebuilt it back up again.
All right. So we try to give everybody things to do or things not to do. Any tips or things that you've learned to future teams, drivers? Could be non-driving, doesn't have to be.
Just say yes to anything, whether it's racing or whatever. It could be the best time you've ever had. And that could be just going out to an HPDE. That could be just going out with your friends for a weekend to watch it. That could be just going to the pit. There's cheap ways of getting into it, and there are expensive ways of getting into it. But, the first thing you got to do is just walk out your front door.
All right, Miss Jen, you want to wrap it up?
Do you have any goals, dreams, and or bucket list items that you've yet to accomplish that you want to?
My bucket list item, my dream is to actually be that one person to say, hey, you know what? Hey, Vic, do you want to come out? Kind of thing. I think
Hey, Vic, you want to come out?
Yeah. I think my bucket list and my
dream accomplished.
Right. So, I think at the end of it all, I think it would be a really great way of retiring into instruction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, get your instructor's license, and then, you can just, that way you're really not losing the community. You're just kind of going out and helping people at that point, and you get to race at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just that way. You're not sitting in a house dress, watching television.
Who wants to do that?
I definitely don't want to sit in the house dress. So we'll cross that off my bucket list. I won't answer that on my episode. That's fine. So, Miss Vicki, you have grown a bunch in their past 4 years, and I don't think you realized exactly how much. So once we're done with the next Dominating with Dawson, which is coming right up, there will be a rerun of your podcast episode. Numero uno for Garage Heroes in Training was Miss Vicki back in the day. And we will see exactly how much you have changed and how much your answers have grown over the years, which could be frighteningly scary.
Oh, Vicki.
Anyway, Vicki 2.0.
Uh-huh.
Maybe at 400, we'll do 3.0. Sounds like fun. All right, Miss Jen, thank you for coming on.
Yep.
Miss Vicki, you had no choice.
Yep.
You're here with me.
Yep.
You're stuck. So thank you, Miss Vicki.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Dominating with Dawson.
So Ben Dawson of Dominating with Dawson, we've got a question we've already asked you, but we're going to ask it again because
let's get into it.
One of our beautiful ladies is looking at adding a Honda Civic to the stable because she wants to learn how to work on a Honda. And
That's cool.
And she wants to have a car that she can take on track at any time. And it's a front wheel drive car. Now, Jennifer, and Vicki, you guys are very comfortable in a rear-wheel drive car, but on a track, you've only been in one front-wheel drive car ever. And I believe when we were talking before Ben popped in, we were talking about what the differences are now that you're starting to push a rear-wheel drive car.
Mhm.
What would be the differences if you're going to try to approach a front-wheel drive car from a higher level, kind of an intermediate to intermediate advanced driver? The difference is because you're no longer braking in a straight line. You're no longer doing one input at a time. You're starting to blend things together. So we thought, I know a guy who's probably beat up more cars than we'll ever get a chance at. So
I'm surprisingly friendly to mechanical components. I just want to make that very clear to any people listening, anybody who might want me to drive their car in the future. It looks violent, but I don't break anything, just to be clear.
Oh, yes.
I've had a couple throttle pedals come off. I mean, I'm just a hard charger. That's true. I should say that. But I don't beat up transmissions, and I don't beat up brakes or hubs or anything.
I had it to the floor, and that wasn't enough, so I pushed harder.
I hit a guy between 6 and 7 at Road Atlanta in an AER race because I was driving an E46 and the throttle pedal came off, and E46 is drive by wire. So even if the throttle pedal is detached, there's still a wire attached to the pedal box deal, the pedal thing. And so while I was trying to slow down for turn 7, knowing that the throttle pedal is adrift, I've had this happen to me twice at E46s, knowing that the throttle pedal is completely not there, I'm trying to hit the brakes and I go faster. I'm like, what's happening? So, you try to hit the brakes harder and you start going faster. And I'm just charging up to this E46 M3. I'm like, I don't want to hit and I realize way too late that I'm pressing the brakes and the throttle at the same time because the throttle pedal is trapped under the brake pedal. Does that make sense? So I'm pressing them both at the same time. So I'm not stopping. And I didn't think it hit the guy, but it turns out after the race, he's like, who hit us? And I was like, man, I'm really sorry. So it was just it was just like a slight bumper contact. But he was trying to turn into turn 7. I'm sure like, whoa, what was that? Right as you're trying to turn in, somebody gives you a little extra help.
So ladies, you still want to ask this guy? I mean, All right.
That's definitely one thing to watch out for in an E46.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, that's noted. So we've got very limited team wise. We've got very limited front wheel drive experience on a track, and the girls were concerned, especially if they do acquire the new Civic, about bringing it to a track without kind of knowing what they're in for. So maybe we should refresh where we were and maybe give a little bit more advanced front wheel drive versus rear wheel drive.
Now, did you guys, I understand, Vicki, you drove that Honda out at Laguna Seca, right? Like a 90s Civic or something, is that right?
Yep.
Did you drive that same car too, Jen?
No,
No, you drove it at Portland.
in Portland.
Yeah.
But I only went around like twice, so I didn't. There wasn't.
It's probably so early too. I thought you were kind of putting.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Together.
Yeah,
you were just driving and trying not to die. That was the phase you were in, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But that car was also a little bit of an anomaly as far as typical the kind of things you would expect from a front wheel drive car. Well, didn't they have that thing built to be super tail happy, like they had the springs reversed or something like that?
It was super loose.
Right. So that's not the typical experience with a front wheel drive car. So if that's kind of your expectation going in, you're sort of getting a skewed view from what people would typically expect. Usually a front wheel drive car, since the front wheels are, sorry, I was just getting a text from my wife. Like, let me stop and read this text that showed up at the top. Sorry. So in a front wheel drive car, the front wheels are doing all the stuff. They're doing the slowing down. They're doing the turning. They're also driving the vehicle. So the front wheel is the front end is usually much more taxed. Not usually, it's always more taxed than in a rear wheel drive vehicle. So you're asking a whole lot more from the front end. So typically you're more likely to see things like understeer, that sort of thing in a front wheel drive vehicle. So unlike your experience with that Civic, they purposefully built to sort of do extra overkill on the understeer. To usually you're going to get some understeer, and that's something you kind of have to tune out if you're able to, through simple adjustments, or if you build a front wheel drive car with a lot of adjustability, gives you more options to get it to rotate the way and turn in the way you want it to. But that's usually one of the biggest hurdles I hear about. I haven't driven a ton of front wheel drive cars, but I know when I used to take my Focus ST out on track, just if that was the only thing I had to take to the track, It definitely didn't turn in the way I wished it would, but also I was on street tires and street brakes.
So, ladies,
that
are
would
you
either-
are you clear about understeer? Do you know what that
Mhm.
means? Vicky, Jennifer,
Yes.
Jennifer's got a puzzled look.
No, I do. So like, it tends to do that, but what do you do about that?
Well, right. That's sort of what we're leading into. is
Ride that sucker.
well, if you're,
And says
if you're-
push gas pedal more.
if you're in your street car and all you got is you don't have adjustable sway bars or adjustable shocks or anything like that, you don't have you really can't adjust your alignment at the track or something like that. Sorry, if you're there and it's like your second ever track day or something like that, and you're driving your Civic and it just won't turn in, one of the easiest things to try is to drop some air out of the front tires and put a bunch of air in the rear tires and see if that thing. The idea is to help the rear brake traction just in the most basic way you can, which is to get that rear end more likely to kind of hop around and make the rest of that turn with the front of the car. Is just to throw a bunch of air pressure at it. You could just try. If you were running like 35 pounds in the front and 35 pounds in the rear. I might go down to like 25 pounds in the front and try 45. Take a big swing at it, 45 pounds in the rear, just to see. I mean, because if you're in track day or something like that, it's not like you're I was inches away from winning the track day championship. Try some weird stuff. But you can just adjust what you're able to adjust. If you have adjustable sway bars and the car is really won't turn in, you can soften the front sway bar and stiffen the rear and see what sort of effect that has. Does that make sense? Those are the kind of most basic adjustments I could think of.
Ladies,
So is it easier to, I guess, spin a front wheel drive than it is a rear wheel drive?
I wouldn't think so. I mean,
No.
typically the
It's
front wheel drive is kind of pulling you up off the corner. So if anything, you're just going to nose first. You're going to drive nose first off the course. If you're going to drive off the course, that would be my expectation. But I don't spend that much either.
So typically, at least the logic that I understand is typically cars off a dealer lot, off a standard car is set up to understeer because they view
Yes.
that as more safe.
Yes, that's a fact.
Meaning it's less likely to spin.
Right.
The only thing that I think you guys might have a little bit of trouble with is sometimes to get out of a position instead of, I think your natural tendency now is to come off the gas in a front wheel drive car. Sometimes you want to hammer the gas and get it to pull itself out of the problem as opposed to lift off out of the problem. Is that,
Yeah. So in the front wheel drive, in order to straighten the car, you have to apply the gas because all that I'm not giving the right word, but all your power generator, your rev, the tires spinning are on the front. So if you lift, it's not really going to help you. It's actually
You might be more adrift if you lift.
Exactly. So you have to apply versus the back is where you want
You're
to
used to.
lift. Right. That's the only
we should put a-
difference.
We should put a caveat and say that sometimes you need to apply the throttle to get out of it. We say always.
yeah, sometimes.
So sometimes the correction is, it seems counterintuitive with front wheel drive is to slam a bunch of throttle at it, but not every time. Like you just see what works for you.
Because I remember you, Vicky, saying when we were in Portland, you spun.
Which time?
And
Just kidding.
really weren't sure what was happening. Do you know what I mean? Until you were just like kind of sitting there. So like, I guess that was like what was going through, like what?
Yeah, that was in a chicane, and that's because I lifted when I was understeering, when I was kind of turning. So when I lifted, it just continued to go around.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's usually not that different. I think you guys have got a bad impression, which is why I'm trying to hurry up and get the Honda ready so we can take it.
I think would be a riot.
It will be fun.
And my teammate has already invited you all just come down and look at it and stay at his house or whatever. So,
Well, we might be taking a road trip.
there you go. So he's going to check it out for you. But if that's not the one, find another one. But yeah, I think if you kind of got the itch to figure out front wheel drive, go do it. I think I mentioned I had a Focus ST that I would drive. Sometimes I drove. I raced a Mazda 626. Is that a front wheel drive? I guess it is.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the hoopty corn, that's that front wheel drive contours. I've raced a few different things that were front wheel drive. The biggest thing I could think of with the hoopty corn, it was a front wheel drive with a fair amount of power. That's that Knox Vegas lowballers car. That's a Mustang, first gen Mustang body on top of a Contour SVT.
Yep.
It had a pretty trick diff and all this stuff. So that thing was working like, a proper front wheel drive race car would work. And it was not a fun car to drive, but also it was pretty brutal altogether. But that thing with that really nice diff would just jerk you up off the corner. So you had to be pretty confident when you mad at the gas to come out of a corner. You feel like, I better be sure where I'm going to end up. Like, where is this arc going to take me? Even as I nail the throttle, is it going to, kind of run me out too far? So that's one thing to think about, is to pay attention to your corner exits. But that's, you just get dialed into that sort of stuff. I learned that's like we talked about earlier tonight. I think before we were on this, like I'd like to just jump into a car I've never driven in a competition. And I think that's what I did with that car. I don't think I had any chance to test it or anything like that before we were racing it. So it was pretty brutal, but it was fun. It was fun to learn that car.
So if we were to try and summarize, let's pretend that I know what this question is going to get to, and I haven't gotten there yet, but let's just pretend that I know where I'm going. If we were to summarize, is the difference between a front wheel drive and a rear wheel drive like black and white, or is it more a shade of gray? Is there a big deal? It's not no deal, right?
It's not no deal, but it's also not a huge deal. Like, at least for me, because also I'm not somebody who's just obsessed with, like, I gotta think about this, Like, I'm just gonna get in the car, feel what it feels like, whether it's front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. I'm gonna kind of just get in the car and feel, try to find what it likes to be fast. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's something to keep in the back of your mind. You might want to be aware of these tendencies, but ultimately just go out and jump in the car and have fun. Right. The big thing to remember, I would say the big thing to kind of keep in mind with front wheel drive, the biggest difference is that there's just so much more going on across the front axle. So, you're turning, braking, driving, all that sort of stuff. So those cars have to be designed, they're engineered to be pretty complex. There's a lot of stuff packed in the front end as far as, working on them standpoint. But as far as driving them, just go out and find what it likes and see what you like and enjoy it. Yep. And adjust the car for what you want it to do. Because you guys are going to end up building some kind of front wheel drive race car. You have a yellow Honda, right?
Yeah, we've got a yellow Honda
Challenge car.
Yep. And we're going to try
to get an old Honda Challenge car. You got something you can build some adjustability into and really kind of get a feel for what you dig. And then you sort of apply some of that stuff to your street car when you buy that Honda Civic SI or whatever. You kind of pick up some principles that work from your real, race car, and it'll give you some good ideas for what works on that track car, whether, you're driving it on street tires, it's, kind of sort of hot pads, or if you end up getting that thing and start running like, 200 treadwear or R comp tires when Jen gets into like doing NASA time trials, she's going to be running Hoosiers on that thing, and it's going to end up being extreme. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of ways you could take that 20, was that a 2010 Honda Civic? Is that what it was? Something like that. But
15, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different directions you can take that car, from a street car to superstar or whatever you want to do. So, but I think you guys, once you get that yellow car rocking and do some events with that, and sort of just learn a little bit more about front wheel drive engineering and racing, then you could definitely have a ton of fun with that SI too.
Yep, I think you guys are viewing it more as like a light switch on off, when it's more like a flavor of ice cream.
Yeah, it's not. It's nothing to be concerned about. I would have a blast in a front wheel drive car today. It's just not. I just haven't been around that many of them. But I love racing a front wheel drive car.
Yep. So, ladies, looks like we're gonna go buy a car. Woohoo! Hopefully.
So exciting.
Absolutely. It's even more exciting. I'm not doing it this time. Who knew? Thank you, Ben.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good luck with that thing.
Thanks.
From the great halls of their house, there assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be millionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with us and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to our new podcast. We are the Garage Heroes in Training Racing Team, and we'd like to welcome you to our extended team. Our goal is to help reduce the inertia towards everyone getting out there and racing their car. It could be with us at an amateur endurance race or at a local track day event or at a local autocross. It really doesn't matter. We hope to show you that if you ever had any interest in driving your car close to the limit, there really is no reason you can't come out and give it a go. We hope to be able to help you see that anyone can do it, even us. So come out with us and enjoy the ride. I'm your host for this episode, Bill.
I'm Vicki.
Instead of our normal, typical podcast episode, we were asked to summarize our team and our hosts and drivers. In an effort to respond to our listeners, we actually came up with these 4 maybe shorter episodes, and we'll have more to follow with our other drivers at a future time. So, Vicki.
Yeah.
How did you get into lemons?
You brought me in. You brought me into lemons. You basically had told me.
So you're blaming me.
I am blaming you. You wanted to join the Monticello race club, and just the sheer cost of it, it was a no-go for me. So you were searching around and kind of showed me this one clip of something on TV and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And it looked like fun. It looked silly. It looked goofy. It looked a little crazy, and I'm like, "Hey, that's right up my alley." So I said yes, and you said, "Well, it's only $500," and I'm like, "Okay."
No, I never said it was $500. I showed you where it said it was $500.
Yes.
And just didn't continue on.
$500 cars, it was the half story. But I think after we had gotten started and went to our first race, I was kind of all in at that point. So this is now our spring, summer, and fall hobby. And our winter hobby is still skiing and snowboarding. So that's how I got into it.
Okay. So quick about yourself. Anything going on? What are you into? What are you doing?
What am I into? All right. I am kind of the creative of the group. Me and my sister, actually my whole family are creatives between my sisters and my mom.
One of them's on our team.
And one of them is on our team, my sister, my younger sister. Everybody has a creative, an artsy something. So I kind of throw the artsy into our team. And so I kind of did find my space in it, my place. And I really enjoy doing them. It's a lot of fun to see a car. It's very funny because having a car sitting in the front yard, because I have no garage to do this, we'll keep it parked there for a couple days, maybe up to a week and a half.
Only when it sinks in the mud.
Oh, yeah, well, the weather has been not accommodating this summer at all whatsoever. So you get a lot of drive-bys of people wondering what the car is going to be next. So we've been having a lot of fun with it. And that's my spot on the team. That's what I've been up to right now, just getting done with the race, our last race that we just attended. And I'm just taking a break at the moment.
What do you mean?
Right now, I'm kind of getting caught up on everything else that I need to get caught up. I have a lot of other creative things to do.
So you're letting real life get in the way of lemons?
Well, right. I have to do some repair work down at my mom's place and select paint chips for her and kind of get caught up on our house and basically our other family responsibilities that we need to tend to. Yeah, real life. There is real life, and there's kids, and
I hate when stuff gets in the way. Anyway, well, you're the one who named the dog Zoe Lemons Fisher. So.
You named the dog Lemons. I got the Zoe just kind of fell upon her and stuck. So
Well, it's better than the kids wanting Xena. So,
yeah.
car history, highs, lows, anything? Were you into cars? Not into cars? Family into cars?
Well, my first car was a Pinto held together. I'd share it with my sister. I think it was a 1970 something. I don't remember how old it was. Held together more by chicken wire and primer and a little bit of paint. Hole in the back of the floor. We dubbed it the Porsche. Porsche obviously spelled wrong. And
And said wrong.
and it kind of got us back and forth to school. We didn't. I think we killed the car. I think after the brakes had went on it, I think I broke something with the brakes, and I had to drive home with a stick shift. I mean the emergency brake. So we didn't have that car. That was a hand-me-down. Went through a couple, you know,
So started off high there. Or?
well, right now it just started out as, hey, there's a car. But I think when I actually went out and bought my car, my first car, after going through a series of cars, of used cars and stuff, was a Jeep Wrangler. I had so much fun in my Jeep. I loved my Jeep.
That's why you can't hear now.
Yes, yes. I spent a lot of time driving up and down the highways with the windows and the roof off. And some of that's selective. So hey,
Only when I'm talking about.
only when you're
Mhm.
talking,
Okay.
honey.
Yes.
We're married, by the way. And after that, I went out and after I bled that car, I think something happened with the carburetor, and it was really bad.
It's a Jeep.
Yeah. So I think after that, I ended up getting a Honda Civic that I bought on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that when I was walking into the dealership, that I was going to be hassled being a very young college student buying my first car. So I took my stepdad with me. And I'd done all my research on negotiation, all my research on my car, all my research on my financing. I knew everything. And I remember that salesman just kept trying to talk to my stepdad. He just kind of looked at her at one point, looked at him and said, she's the one who's buying the car. And I think at the end of the time when I purchased it, he looked at me and I remember him saying, "Why did you bring me?" And I said, "You're here to help me pick the color." So anyway, it's when I bought my very first car on my own. I got a great deal on it. I negotiated that guy down, knew exactly what I was going to pay for it. I was so happy. And then after that,
Any interesting stories about that car?
got into an accident with it,
No.
and then we left it on
That's
no.
about it.
Oh, yes, yes. I remember going to volleyball, and somebody had I came out Bill and I okay, everybody. Bill and I, when we met, we were volleyball. We met on a volleyball court, and then we became volleyball partners, and we became beach volleyball partners. We got from the time we met to the time we got engaged was a very short time, and we've been married 20 years. So when we were in volleyball at one point, I parked my car, came out afterwards, and my car was gone. Okay, just mind you, this was the very early 90s, I believe.
96.
No, I think it was it 96?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, maybe not so early. But I found my car a couple days later. My car, it was not stripped down, but it was completely emptied, and I went through a whole series of radios being stolen from my car. And they stole everything out of the car but a Michael Bolton tape, which just I think we all just cracked up. It was just hysterical.
So are you still going with the story that they planted the Michael Bolton tape and it's not yours?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. All right.
I am. I'm going with that story.
All right. Works for me.
So yeah, that one we moved to Hawaii with, and we left it there.
Mm-hmm.
Sold it, left it there. Went through a bunch of four-wheel drives on this end because we started getting
Subarus.
Subarus when we came back, so we had to deal with weather at that point. I think the next favorite car that kind of showed up was the Mini Cooper. We had a blast in Mini Cooper. And then after that, my favorite car, I think, was my Golf. I really loved my Golf GTI. I loved my Golf GTI. Especially I could fit my Bernese Mountain Dog in it, and I used to laugh because it would be big dog in a little car. So yeah, and I think after that, we moved into a ski area, so we just kind of had to really worry about snow and traveling back and forth to the mountains. So now I drive an SUV at the moment,
SUV.
a SUV. Yes, that's my car history. I do like zippy little cars more than I like, the big kind of luxury cars.
Okay.
I kind of like the little Mini Cooper was pretty cool, and the Golf little hot hatch was great. I like my SUV. It's good. It suits the purpose that we need for right now.
hmm
So that's my history with cars. And then we got into lemons, and now I kind of got my little speed demon in.
Which one of our Lemons cars do you like?
Well, I was a very big fan of the 74 Capri because it was just cute. It was our first car. I loved it. I really never got a chance to enjoy the Mustang. The opportunity was really never there.
That window is closed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that door is now closed. And now we have the truck. The race truck. Speedy truck. And
The bad hombre.
yeah, the Bad Hombre. We have the Bad Hombre now, and I really like the Bad Hombre. So I'm very excited to drive both of these vehicles now. Once we get the Capri fixed and set up, and the truck, I think they're going to give us two very enjoyable race experiences with them. They're both very fun little cars to drive.
Any mechanical history?
I have zero. Oh, okay. No, I can't say that. I
I
can.
was gonna say you got
Yeah, I can't say that. Okay, so I'm kind of more of the small engine, the very small engine. In our family, I am the builder and the repair person. So my experiences have been repairing the lawnmowers by just taking it apart, or the
leaf blower.
the snow blower, the leaf blower. I think the only thing car mechanical that I've really done was install new speakers for you. But most of the stuff is
Handyman
for me is the rebuilding a fence, or repairing appliances, or just tearing a dryer apart down to its pull the drum out. So those kind of things I can do. Mechanics, I mean, when it comes to a car, it's not that I can't do it. I mean, I truly believe you can do anything. You just gotta learn how to do it, or YouTube it, or whatever. So I can't say that I could never learn how to work on a car. I think if I spend enough time looking at it, it's just not something that I really want to do. I can do lighter stuff for it. I
What
can
about-
install the radios. I can electrical stuff or whatever. That's fine. But yeah, I think just getting in there and getting overly greasy is just kind of not my thing. I think more the creative thing is more of
What about theming cars?
theming. Oh, I like the theming. The theming has been a good experience because it is teaching me to do a lot of experimenting. I've never done such large projects, paint projects and design projects as large as the ones I've been doing here with these vehicles, and that includes the props, the paint, working with the different kinds of paints. We've done the what is that, plasti dip, plasti coat. We did it like a spray wrap. The Mustang was a complete spray wrap. That was an interesting product to work with. We actually, worked with the full on paint with the sprayer on the 74 Capri.
The air spray.
Yeah, the air sprayer. And then the Bad Hombre was with rattle cans.
All outside, all out in the open.
All outside, all out in the open. So, and after that, either playing with the vinyls and playing with the different types of paints that are there between the flats and the gloss, decoratively theming the cars. I mean, honestly, just painting over it's nice because you don't have to really worry about the body in a Lemons. You just paint over the crap. Just paint over the rust. It doesn't have taillights. Paint taillights on it. Just add the color. So it's been kind of freeing, and knowing that even if the car gets damaged or wrecked or whatever, who cares?
So assuming that everybody might not know the 3-car themes, you want to just go over those quickly and describe them?
Yes, the 74 Capri was our first one, and we decided to make that the Avengers Assemble. I remember Bill and I were sitting in the office trying to come up with a team name and a theme, and we were really kind of struggling there for a little while, and a couple things were thrown out that they just really weren't sticking for us. But when we decided that, why don't we go with what we know and what we love, and that's superheroes and superhero movies, that why don't we just go ahead and go that route, and then things just quickly came into play. So the first one ended up being Avengers Assemble.
What color is it?
It is blue mostly blue with the white vinyls on it with the Avengers logo on the hood. It just wasn't enough, so I started adding more. So we did the Avengers assemble down the side. Jeff helped us with the decaling on that with his machine with the vinyls, and I think I just kept adding to it. So really happy how that turned out for being the first vehicle that came out. And it's kind of like a little snazzy little car. I'd like to do more to it. We decided to go ahead and put little rounds. I think they're like 3 to 4 inch decals along the back end where they're just all the Avengers logos or their emblems.
All our driver logos.
All the driver logos. Yeah, so that ended up being our first one. And after that, the second one came along, and that was going to be, okay, what screams with a Mustang and the edges on it. And we had to kind of soften the hard edges on the Fox body because they're very angular. So we decided to go ahead and paint a little bit of curvature on the car and add what is that, pinstriping to kind of add to it. And that ended up being Spider-Man.
Spider Stang.
The Spider Stang, and it turned out really well. We had working that in the front yard. We had many people just stop along the way, and it's just like, what are you guys doing? And then we built Bondo, which was he was supposed to be the prop that was supposed to sit on top of the car, but I didn't build it properly enough where the knee, it was PVC pipe, and the positioning of it, the knee kind of collapsed on it a little bit when I was underneath the spray foam, the insulation foam. It was all carved out. I slipped on a Spider-Man costume with it. We've had a lot of fun playing with that in the neighborhood. And he was supposed to be mounted on top of the car backwards with streamers coming from its wrist, but it's
Webbing.
I know.
What villains have you been battling this week?
As you can tell, we had a little audio difficulty on my channel, and hopefully we fix that, and we'll see, and we'll resume with the interview starting now. Thanks. Bye. So the Spider-Man was pointing backwards, and you were going to put some webbing-looking streamers on the back when we were driving, right?
Yes. So we cracked his knee. So he wasn't able to mount him. So we're going to have to really work on the framework for the next one that has to go up. So that didn't quite work out. So anyway, he became a fun prop to carry around the track, put on top of the cars, put on top of the neighbors' cars. That was a lot of fun. Put on top of the trailer. Actually, driving down the road with him in the car on the flatbed trailer, looking out at all the people driving on the road was pretty hysterical too. So yeah, he kind of became a little mascot for our team. That kind of worked out well. So then,
that car is blue and red with black webbing and some other stickers and stuff.
It's a Spider-Man. It was a Spider-Man car. We did it with the pinstriping, the decaling, and when you had ordered the pinstriping for me, it came in a reflective tape. So at night, the Spider-Man webbing kind of glowed a little bit in almost like a slate gray. It just reflected the light. It was black during the day, and it was shiny gray at night. It was really kind of cool. So that was the Spider-Man car, and now we were going to have the truck show up as the Hulk, but the Hulk, it would end up being smaller. I've gone into this with the other podcast, that it ended up being smaller than we anticipated, and we had already started building the Hulk head using the base of a Halloween prop of a skull. So we kind of built the spray foam around it, and then we carved it. We had a picture of a Hulk that we enjoyed, so we mimicked that on there, and getting ready to start finishing the carving, getting ready to carve or start the paint work on it. And then we put it on top of the roof of the car, and with the weight that was in it, it just started bouncing up and down on the roof. And I'm like, this is not good. And the car ended up being too small for what we were doing with it. So we decided to scrap that, turn the Hulk head into a statue piece, and painted it all shades of gray and stone looking. Threw that in the back, and then we turned the car into damage control, which is a cleanup crew.
So you're saying El Jefe is smaller than you anticipated?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I just
No
wanted
no
that.
shots. Yeah, no shots. It seemed a lot bigger on the track.
Little shot.
S- Yeah. So anyway, um, that ended up being flat black. We decided to do flat black. Flat black is quite beautiful on a racetrack. It's easy to cover up any damage because you don't have to blend your paint. And then the decal itself for damage control was done more shiny in glossier paints. And then with that, I drew it on the wall on some graph paper, and then I just cut layers of templates and stencils from it, and I just did layers of stenciling on top of stenciling, basically with the paint. And then I got my good base in, and then hit it with an airbrush. I'm so excited about the airbrush. And then that was done, and then hand painting on the side with the hand stenciling on the side for the paintwork. It turned out really well. I'm pretty happy with it. On the back end of it, because there was a galvanized plates that I believe that they put in the back
The bed.
in the bed. Yeah. So I just, I went out and just bought a chrome, no, it was galvanized steel paint color, and I just finished off the entire bed, covered all the rust, made everything look uniform, chrome painted all the roll bars, and that was a long project, only because we had to really struggle with the rain. But when it was done, and it looked really nice. So I don't know how long it will stay damage control. I think there's a lot more that we could do with it, but it was good in a pinch because we were so set on the Hulk that I needed something fast because I had other things I had to really tend to. So
We only had a few weeks before getting the car and getting it
yeah,
to a race.
yeah, and having to start, honestly, there's nothing more intimidating than a white sheet of paper, when you're doing an art project, because, where do you go? Where do you start? So
The car is not made of paper.
I know, but it was still white. So yeah, the toughest part with the the toughest part of working with the ombre was that we had sanded up the car and roughed up the paint to go ahead and get ready for the next layer, our layer, to go on. And the ombre used to be white. And as I was putting on my contact paper and cutting some of my templates out, when I would pull the contact paper back, it was pulling off the paint, but it was not pulling off our layer. It was pulling off the white layer between the white and the primer. So there's some air. Fortunately, it was flat black, so I was able to just sand it off a little bit and do it. But I had to do some of my work over repeatedly, so that was a little frustrating, especially in the days to the end of it.
So you had to go to bare metal.
Yeah, that was a lot. I'm like, I kept thinking, did we end up doing something wrong with our coat of paint going on there? But then I realized there was a paint layer that was right where the primer was. So I was like, oh, geez, I don't know. Really got to work on this fast now. So, but anyway, so that was fun. It was done. I was really happy how it turned out. It looked great on the track. There's more that we could do to it, but like again, I'm not sure how long we're going to keep it as that. But
As damage.
as damage control. So yeah, it turned out good. So
All right. What do you think your lemons are for? I mean, your lemons are for goals. What do you think your goals are
What
for
are-
lemons?
what are my goals for lemons? I think to finish a race would be would be nice.
We did one time.
Yeah, to kind of we did.
One out of 5.
We were,
Oh,
yeah,
no, 2 out of 5.
yeah. You know what? We were really spoiled having our '74 Capri running as our first car on the racetrack and having zero issues with it and finishing a race, or almost finishing a race.
Nope, we finished it.
We finished it with very little mechanical issues whatsoever.
Except for me hitting the wall, we had none.
Right. That was the very first race when we got into lemons, and I was like, "This is cool. We could do this. This is a lot of fun."
Yeah, especially when the
And
car
after
was-
that, after that, it just kind of went downhill. So,
Well,
so
I think we did assume that, hey, that was easy. So instead of just bringing one car, let's bring 2 cars.
yeah, and that was a big mistake. Yeah, but I think that now that we have the solid running ombre,
Mhm.
I think it will be forever called the ombre or the bad ombre, or the El Jefe.
Mhm.
It will be forever named that. It's a solid vehicle, so I'm really excited about racing that vehicle once we kind of get the little tweaks out that kind of appeared, just so we can kind of continue the race like we had our very first one in Jersey.
Okay. So what are your goals in lemons? Your
to
goals?
finish a race.
No, your goals.
My goals.
Yes.
I would say to I'm serious. Just finish a race.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to finish. I would like to be part of the team to finish the race.
Okay.
Because I haven't been in the cars for very long.
How about your driving goals?
My driving goals.
Race driving.
Trying to hit the apex is just right. Trying to make my car float.
What do you mean float?
Okay, so I walked the track with Chrissy and Jeff from Three Pedal Mafia,
And Chris.
and Chris and Chrissy and Jeff. Yes, and I was walking around, and they were showing me.
Who's the lady that's related to Chrissy?
Oh, hi, Chrissy's mom.
Oh, that's right. Hi,
Hi,
Chrissy.
Chrissy's mom.
Okay, sorry.
So we walked around, and he showed me, or showed us, a group of us, how the certain places where the car has to hit the turns,
Mhm.
the best way of hitting those turns with other traffic there, and then we discussed. I think at one track, the wet and the dry.
Yeah, it was more wet than dry at Thompson.
Yeah, and on the dry day when we were racing,
I don't remember the dry day.
I don't know, maybe was it that race?
Yes, it was.
It was. Okay, so
That was the hell day on Friday, and then the monsoon Saturday and Sunday.
no, it wasn't. It was Jersey. It was Jersey that we went to, because I remember the track wasn't as complicated. But anyway, when we were going around the track, after he had shown me about the apexes and having the car do the work for you, I had,
When you went out on Sunday.
yeah, you know what? It worked for me. I remember driving the 74 Capri, and it actually going through the track and hitting the apexes just right. And I was doing exactly what he was trying to tell me, or trying to do that as he instructed me. And the car, it really ended up not being laborious to drive, just watching for the traffic. And I hit the sweet spot a couple times, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. So my goal right now is to see if I can make the car float on the track like that, like I did in the Jersey race. Not being able to work so much when I drive, and hitting the time just right with it.
Would you want to, or would you be interested in going and take some driving classes, or going to high performance driving events and stuff?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would. To kind of fit it into the family schedule is a little tough, but yeah, I think I would.
Well, Mia's always out for go-karting.
I know she is. Little speed demon she is. She's good.
She is.
She's really good in a go-kart.
I have to try now. It's killing me.
I know.
So plans to improve, maybe some karting, maybe some track days, things like that. I really want to go to Pittsburgh next year.
I know.
So
Everybody, Bill's been really not hounding me, but asking me and encouraging me and to go with him on these. So it's a thing. But yeah, I think I would. Again, I just want to work out the schedule, because I always feel like there's weighted responsibility here. Trying to squeeze that in, family, kids, dog, puppy.
Zoe Lemons Fisher.
Zoe Lemons Fisher.
Okay, so thinking about how we've gone and how the team's gone and how you've done and how we've all done, anything that you think we've done, we're doing the good, bad, and the ugly. So anything good?
Good.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a bad sign.
No. No, you know what? The good is that we're constantly learning, and we're constantly improving, and I think we're improving really fast with our learning.
Well, if you've done so many things wrong, it's easy to
Yeah.
learn from.
Yeah, I think the good is is that we're not kind of going in here shy, we're kind of going in all in. So I think that's good. The making the fast friends is good, and just learning the process, I think, is good.
If it's worth doing,
It's worth overdoing. I know.
All right. So with the good comes the bad. Anything bad that we've done we shouldn't do?
The bad, I think the bad is just it's just keeping a level head on the pressure of the organization part, because things can get disorganized really fast and kind of have you blow it.
Is that the tripping on the wiener capability that we're talking about?
Yeah, that was the driving off with all the helmets.
We're now an award-winning
Yes, we are.
endurance race team with a podcast.
Well, the podcast, yeah.
Minor internet celebrity.
Now, you know what? I really can't say anything is really bad. You know what? I would say our bad is that I think be a little bit more educated on the cars that we choose.
Well, just because we bought a car and never actually took it out and sold it before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah. I think,
Whoops.
yeah. So, uh,
Yeah, just don't listen to the podcast with Alan about buying cars. That's fine.
yeah. So, yeah. And I really can't say anything about ugly because,
No ugly?
no, I really don't think so. I really don't think so. Because,
What about the rolling shed?
oh, the rolling shed. Yeah. So by the Thompson, we decided to rent 2 trailers.
RVs.
RVs, yeah. But the closest we can get them to was closer to Boston, and we were in Connecticut. They were supposed to be transferred closer, but that transfer never happened. So getting them and bringing them back, that was fine.
Long.
Yeah, it was long, but that and ended up in a campground that was really scary. It was a really scary campground. We kind of drove in, went and then left.
Well, it was run by the duo of Jason and Freddie. So
Yeah, it was really scary.
it was a little bit.
Yeah, so
Camp Crystal Lake, we'll call that.
yeah, we're just like, we're not staying here. And then having one of those RVs break down on a very steamy, rainy weekend, and everybody was hot, everybody was cranky. We were not in a garage, we were outside, kind of like in our camp area, in our campers, and in our
Mud.
trailer. We weren't even in the mud. We were on the pavement, so it really wasn't that, but it was just wet. It was hot, and that smaller RV ended up being the shed, maybe a changing place. It was horrible for that.
Why do we call it the shed? Let's pretend somebody listening doesn't know.
Oh, the shed. It had 0 power.
0 power.
There was no air.
No air.
There was no water.
No water.
They it was still full of black waste.
Yep.
It was not usable. I remember getting the RVs and them saying, "Oh, well, you know, wherever you go, just go ahead and dump and do this, this, this." I'm like, "Where we're going, we don't have those." So, yeah, but fortunately they didn't even argue. They didn't even charge us. And yeah, that was kind of a nightmare. I think that if we actually had it working, it probably would have been a little better, but you know, it was tough. But yeah, that weekend was rough because both cars were going on us, and we didn't get much sleep that weekend.
Nope. Well,
But
I mean, we kind of do this to ourselves. We have yet to have. I think you and I are the only 2 who's run 3 races. We have a lot of people who've run 2 races, but you know, we've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people on our team so far. And so and 12 of them had never raced before racing with us. So, you know,
right.
to be expected, I think.
Right. I also think that when it comes to it, I think that both of us are slight perfectionists in a sense where, you know,
I'm not a
I
perfectionist. I'm
would give-
exactly what I should be.
you know, you want it to run right, and you want it to you have this vision of how your weekend goes, and you just can't get it to meet that expectation. But then again, we're new at this, so there's a lot of simplifying that we could do. So
If it wasn't
anyway,
for the humans and the mechanical things, everything would be fine.
yeah, robot. So so yeah, that weekend was a little rough. The following weekend, I mean the following race when we did the adults only, except for Bennett.
Why do you say adults only?
Well, because the race was during the school year, so the kids had to stay home.
Ah.
So, but we did have 2 kids with us. One of them was a teen who was driving,
Oh, yeah.
and one of the kids was a floater, hanging out.
He's too young to race yet.
Yes, he is. He is.
Although he has talked to me about it.
So, and being up with an experienced team or experienced team members, we learned a ton. We camp shared. That was huge. So it made it enjoyable again. I kind of signed back up again saying, you know, this is something that we could do. I was a little bit defeated in the Thompson race because it would.
Well, that was our first race in the rain, our first race in the heat, our first race with 2 cars, our first race with
Lots of new drivers.
we had 1, 2, 3, 4 brand new drivers. Three of them 18 years old. Two of them had just learned to drive a stick.
And we had no organization
Yeah, it
set up,
was
really.
well.
We had very
Yeah.
little organization set up. We knew what needed to get done, but I think having teens, sometimes initiative is not there when you have adults see a problem, they just jump in. I think it was sometimes with teens aren't really accustomed to that. Teens are used to being told what needs to get done, and then they'll do it, and then it's just a matter of
Maybe.
constantly channeling them back. So it was work, but having that last race where everybody played a part and just jumped in was very helpful. I enjoyed it a lot.
Anything that we need to improve on? Any holes that we have? Any team car? Anything?
I think after this last race, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I would say for us to make sure when we start getting the rest of the group, the summer group together,
hmm
would be to actually have jobs laid out, written down, and assigned. The
hmm
whiteboard was huge. The whiteboard was so helpful because we didn't do that the last two races, and that whiteboard really helped us out a lot. So, but having those areas designated and just looking at the teens and go, this is your job. Stick with it until it's done, or pass it on to somebody else and make sure they stick with it and make sure it's done. I think that's kind of racing with teens is tough. It is, but it's enjoyable.
Well, they're also new, so I mean,
Yes, it's enjoyable. It is enjoyable. But yeah, I think that would be the only improvement is just really, assigning that and making the teens realize that, this is a work weekend. We're signing you up for this. We're paying for the job. So there is no free ride. So you got to work it as much as you're driving. So
right. So upcoming race schedule for this year and next year. Anything you've got in mind? Anything you want to do?
I know you want me to go to Atlanta, and I got to
I do.
yeah, I got to kind of work that out.
That's in December.
Yeah, I know. And then we just start back fresh up with Jersey again. So I know that we won the lucky dog. So
We
you're
did.
planning the summer trip. That will be a little interesting on how that's going to work out because, we bring our stuff, we bring our supply, we bring our food, I don't know how that's really going to manage that. So we'll see how that goes.
So you want to do the same 3 races?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. The ones that are during the summer. Definitely make it
As
easy
in the
for
one trip?
us. And this, I think this year too, it'll be a lot easier because the cars will be done. So they're just going to need tweaking at this point. We were going all in where we had to, going from 0 to 100. When we said we were going to do, I think we said we were going to do this in February.
Yeah, we bought the first the first real car in February.
Yeah, when you said, I said okay, and then I think like within 2 weeks you were down there picking up
Well,
prompt critical.
I bought the car while we were walking around Epcot.
Yes, you did, didn't you? So,
I did.
so we really had to work on that car real fast as soon as the weather broke,
Mhm.
and the rains had stopped and the winds had started to die down. We really had to dive in on that car.
We had our beach party at the parking lot.
Yeah. So
Beach party is a sanding
yeah,
party, by the way.
yeah, the sanding party. Everybody was out there working on it. Everybody was very excited. So yeah, it'll be easier this upcoming season, I believe, because we already know what needs to
Mhm.
get done. We can just tweak it at this point. We have a lot of extra stuff that needs to get done.
Cool. All right. Well, if I can talk you into going to Pittsburgh, that would be the only addition I'd like to see.
Well,
So
Pittsburgh is what, 5 hours, I think. So
4.
4.
Yeah. But
Okay.
it's
If
it's
you
a weekend.
remember, you have a trailer.
Yeah, but we can drive real cars. We don't have to drive Lemon's cars.
Are you doing a yibbit?
Yeah, but
Yibbit.
no, we can drive my car and Liam's car, and
Yeah.
don't listen to the podcast with Jeff, and we'll have 3 cars. We'll be good.
So yeah,
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
sorry. Don't listen to the podcast with Alan. Sorry.
Well, what time of year is that?
It's in the summer.
Oh, well, yeah, Pittsburgh is doable.
I think it's late June, early July, something.
Why didn't we do Pittsburgh anyway?
I had a business trip I couldn't get out of.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
They've got three instructors there. You might know.
Wait, is this a race or is this a training?
Training.
Oh, I thought it was a race. Okay. Yeah,
Jennifer wants to go.
yeah.
By the way.
Oh, yeah, that could happen. All right.
It will happen.
Did you sign me up already?
I have no specific recollection of doing these things. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sorry, but we're running out of time and space on my computer. I think we're going to have to call this an end.
All right.
So, thank you for putting up with my terrible interviewing skills. You are the family interrogator. You should be doing this, but it's awfully difficult to interview yourself. So, I subbed in and did what I could. So this is probably the third of our episodes, and we'll have one more where we actually get into our whole team, but you should know a little bit more about each of us. And if you made it this far, you are a glutton for punishment, and we owe you a sticker. So see us anytime at a track, and we'll give you some Garage Heroes swag. Anyway, thanks everybody, and thank you, Vicki, for putting up with me, and we'll see everybody next episode. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. You survive?
I did.